if somebody is starting a business in any industry and their measure of success is tethered to money, then they need to just abort the mission immediately.
This is the Adventure Sports Podcast, brought to you by 180 TAC. Get out there and have some fun. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Mason here. Y'all know that we love the Adventure Sports Podcast community, and we worked out a special deal with Backpackers Pantry. They make dehydrated and freeze-dried food, and they make the most incredible meals. They have over 50 options, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, all of that. And if you are a listener to the Adventure Sports Podcast, you can get 25% off your order by going to backpackerspantry.com and using the promo code AdventureSports25. The link to that and the specific code will be in the show notes. And yeah, if you need to order some backpacking meals for an upcoming trip or you just want to load up, it's for a limited time and it's limited to 100 users. So please go on Backpackers Pantry and use the code and get 25% off your order. All right, here's the episode. Welcome to the show. Today I have a guy that left a probably, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but probably a cozy career that he was building for a decade or so.
Yeah.
And left that to start an outdoor gear shop in the Denver area. So he's trying to, at the very beginning, play with the big boys. And that guy is Jimmy Funkhouser. Jimmy, did I say your last name right?
You nailed it.
Awesome. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and where you're from and how you got out to Denver?
Yeah, well, you alluded to my previous career a little bit. That's something that I think a lot of people ask me about because I spent 10 years in a very corporate existence, kind of chasing, I think, what a lot of people perceive to be the American dream, steady salary, all the things and all the time off and all the vacations, and just became disenchanted with that lifestyle. I did it for 10 years and moved all over the country and had some great experiences, but it just got to the point where, and I guess I should say what I did. I was a regional director for Toys R Us and Babies R Us. I was with them for about 10 years. Everybody knows where they're at now, but they're gone.
Good move.
Yeah, just the timing was good. It's a chicken and the egg question. Did they go under because I left, or did I leave because they were going under? I guess
the world will never know, man.
the world
will never know. Well, you're doing something right because Farrell's taken off.
Yeah. It's been a crazy journey. We've been around for about 2.5 years now. We grand opened our original store on March 4th back in 2016. And it's been a wild journey. Exceeded my expectations in a lot of ways, and it's been so much harder than I could have ever imagined in some other ways. So it's been fun.
You guys got Best Outdoor Gear Shop in Denver last year. Is that correct?
Yeah. There's a few different publications that kind of do best ofs in the Denver area, and we've been fortunate enough to win a couple just about every year, but it's weird. You kind of mentioned earlier taking on the big guys in Denver, and that couldn't be more true. We're literally 5 miles from the REI flagship store downtown Denver. Their existence is quite literally why there are not a plethora of independent shops in Denver. So it's I think people have really enjoyed seeing, the local independent guy kind of taking on Goliath. And I think that's been a big part of our success.
Man, so you said it's exceeded your expectations. What were your expectations if it wasn't to be the best? Was it just to survive and produce an income?
Well, to be perfectly honest, I had no expectations as far as the business side of things. I had been fortunate enough to have some financial security in my previous career, and it just wasn't really about that at all. And, when I started Feral, it was really a personal journey more than anything. I didn't even see it as a business move or a business venture or a traditional startup. It was just, what the hell do I want to spend my time doing? I was so disenchanted by the corporate existence, and it really what it came down to is I wanted consistency between my personal life and my professional life. In my old career, I'd show up, dressed to the nines, had to kind of, use all the business buzzwords all day and kiss everybody's ass and not shake the tree. And in my personal life, I've always had a very irreverent approach to everything I do. I don't take anything too seriously. I'm a dirtbag at heart. I love being outside. And there was just this real big disconnect between how I was spending my personal time and how I was spending my professional time. And it just didn't feel like just didn't feel like an authentic way to live my life. And just wanted to fix that.
I think your beard's scratching the mic just a little.
Yeah. It's
I get that problem too.
It's funny when I'm talking on the phone. A lot of times, people lose me and they think I'm losing my signal. It's really just my phone getting buried in my beard.
Well, some beards are epic enough to lose some signal, but yeah, yours is one of them. So interesting thing, your beard shares a birthday with Feral, isn't that right?
Yeah, that's true. Part of that kind of buttoned up corporate existence was, I had to dress a certain way. I had to look a certain way. And literally when I launched Feral, I launched the beard at the same time. And it's been interesting because people if I'm out and about, it's, how when you have a dog, sometimes people recognize your dog before they recognize you.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of like that with my beard. When I'm out in public, if I'm at an event or, last night I was at a fundraiser for a local nonprofit and I had a few people that, recognized my beard before they actually recognized me. So it's like having a cute dog.
Yeah. I don't know if the beard's as cute as your dog, but yeah, no, yeah. I get it. Cool, man. So, you spent 10 years in the corporate world, and that wasn't here in Colorado.
It was all over the place. I lived in Indianapolis, spent some time working in Chicago, some time in Kansas City, and then I did spend the last 2 years with the organization based here in Denver, which is what, thankfully, they got me out to Denver after about 5 years of begging and pleading.
Wow. Now, is that just for the love of the outdoors?
Yeah, I took a backpacking trip with a couple buddies back home in Indiana to Colorado about almost 8 years ago now. And we did the 4-pass loop, which is kind of cliche, classic backpacking loop in Colorado. And I'll never forget, we were actually driving on Interstate 70 west into the mountains, and we came over the hill there in Genesee, and I saw real mountains for the first time in my life. And I turned to my buddy and I said, I know this is probably going to be a lot of fun, and I'm probably going to miss you guys, but I got to live here.
Man, that's so funny you say that. I did the same thing on a road trip with my dad about 5 years ago, and I said, I have to live here. And he's like, why? I'm like, are you looking around at all this? And I came from Florida, so, it's totally different world. But yeah. I totally understand that feeling. Another interesting thing about you that I wanted to ask was you're the oldest of 10 kids.
Yeah, that's correct. In real life, it's an odd thing. So I'm originally from Indiana, southern Indiana. So I'm the oldest of 10, and just about everybody not just about everybody is still back in Indiana. All my brothers and sisters. My youngest sister is 12. So
holy cow!
It's funny because I didn't really grow up in a big family. That's the unique thing about being the oldest. Is I was off to college before half of them were even born. So even though I am the oldest of 10, my experience growing up in that family is not the same as, some of the middle children that quite literally, lived with all of us.
Wow.
So it's a little different, but it's also, it's a big driving force for me too.
What's that?
Just being the oldest, it's a big driving force for me. I think anybody that's the oldest in a large family, you always carry this, I don't want to say burden, but this sense of responsibility to like charge forward and blaze the path. And I think that's been a big part of my identity my whole life and kind of the approach I take with things. But I have this sense of wanting to inspire, my brothers and sisters to do what, lights them on fire. But so it's a different thing for sure.
Man, so coming from such a large family, a Midwestern family, what do you think the general consensus is of everybody about you and what you're doing out here? What do they say about you?
Yeah, that's a good. It's something that I actually just recently started to, I guess, to be aware of. And the reason it's something that's, I guess, been something I've thought about recently is when we may or may not talk about this, but we launched an Indiegogo campaign to help fund our new shop in Denver, and that in the course of that whole campaign, it was the first time that I really was fully aware of how much people back home were rooting for me and were willing to do what they could to step up and help this whole adventure work.
Right.
And it just changed my perspective on, I guess, kind of my role in this whole thing.
Right.
I feel like so many people in my family and so many people back home and so many of my friends just really care about us making this thing happen. And it was an odd thing. It just kind of made me feel like almost I have an obligation to just do this the right way, make it work, and make it something that people are proud of.
Do you like that kind of pressure, or is it a little bit intimidating?
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I want to live a big life. I want to live a life that not only I'm proud of, but the people around me are proud to have been a part of, because I don't feel like we live our lives in isolation in any way. I really feel very strongly that nothing worthwhile is accomplished alone, and when I see the things that we've been able to do, I don't look at it and say, look what I've done. Look at, I don't look at it that way. I really feel very strongly that it's a collective effort and push towards something that, like, almost I'm not even doing. It's like I'm just kind of almost a proxy for like the collective group that I'm surrounded by, and we're just all kind of making this thing happen.
As far as your public image of what Feral is doing, you guys seem to be making it. You do seem to be kind of leading that charge to turning the outdoor industry back to these small communities and really building a solid community around that. I mean, if you're honest, could you say is that what's happening behind closed doors? Do you feel like it's a success, or do you feel like you've just got such a long way to go?
One of the challenges with entrepreneurship is that every decision and every day and every moment is either a complete success or an absolute failure. Yeah. There's no in between. There's no like, oh, that went okay, or, it's either that was amazing or I really bleeped that up. And that's the challenge I think that any entrepreneur feels. Actually, I don't even like that word. I don't know why I just used it, but anybody that creates something, I think they feel that, because it's such every decision and every moment is a personal decision. When we decide to put Charmin in the bathroom, like I pine over that decision. You know, it's
The good stuff, huh?
yeah, yeah. So it's hard to really get a sense for where we're at when you're in it and what we're. It means a lot to hear you say that because it truly is something that we want to do. You know, coming from the corporate life and seeing how banal and soulless the corporate structure and the corporate way of running a business is. You know, one thing we talked about very early at Farrell's, we want to do things the right way. We want to be proud of every decision we make. And then we want to prove that you can be successful with that approach. And I mean, I don't think we're even close to proving, you know, that you can sustain that over time. But, you know, to hear or to get any impression that we're at least on that path is something that definitely means a lot to me.
I totally feel you. You want to prove that you can keep your humanity and also be successful. I recently listened to an interview with Andrew Mason, which is the founder of Groupon.
Yeah.
And he was saying, he goes, the problem with, they were the fastest growing business of all time, like just scaled so big, so quickly.
Yeah.
And he said that the biggest problem with that was that I had to compromise morally more times than like if you would have talked to the person 4 years before that, I would have been appalled by some decisions I had to make. And you just, when you get so big, something has to break. And a lot of times it's your humanity. And
Right.
so there's something to be said about keeping things local, keeping things small, and really, really focusing on the people right in front of your face that are participating in your business day in and day out. I think that's a recipe for a really rewarding lifestyle.
Yeah. At the end of the day, if you're 70 years old and you look back on what you've spent most of your time doing, if you're not proud of how you did it, what was the point?
Yeah.
Like if you can't look back and say, I treated people the right way, I'm proud of the approach we took, then that's to me that's a wasted life. Like I would hate that. I would rather. I say this occasionally, and it pains people to hear me say it, particularly my team. But I tell people all the time, I would rather fail doing things the right way in a way that we're proud of than be successful cutting corners or treating people, you know, like property and not building relationships and not building community. I mean, if you don't do it that way, you're just going to be disappointed in yourself at the end.
What's a big example of a decision you've had to make like that?
Yeah, I think you know, we make decisions pretty much every day that we have to account for that kind of mentality. You know, one example is the brands we work with. You know, as a retailer, we're constantly aligning ourselves with other companies.
Yeah.
You know, not every business is like that. You know, it's one of the unique things about retail is that we're literally going to market publicly with partnerships, and with each one of those partnerships, we're making a statement. You know, we're essentially co-signing the approach of this other company, and I think that that's definitely one of the biggest ways that we kind of put our stamp on our approach. But in the outdoor industry, we're fortunate in that there are a lot of really amazing companies that, you know, we feel are doing things the right way, and we feel very strongly that going into partnership with them is a great way to really not only magnify our ethos and our approach, but kind of help those companies do the same thing.
Has any company come back to bite you in the butt as far as public image?
We've dodged some bullets, definitely.
Okay.
You know, I think that one of the challenging things in retail, particularly in a in a hard goods business, is as a independent shop, we want to carry unique things, and carrying unique things oftentimes means being first to market with something, a new company, a startup company, And anybody that works in startups knows that most of them don't make it. And that's not always because it's a bad product or because it's hard. It's hard to take an idea, create something and convince people that it's useful.
Yeah.
There's been a couple times that we've taken a look at something and said, wow, we think this could really take off. And we jumped at it because we wanted to introduce something unique, and it just didn't work. A lot of times it's just administratively, the startup doesn't have their ducks in a row, and those are always tough calls because you want to be able to show your community something fun and unique, but also, if that company's not quite ready to either take care of the customers or service their product or whatever, it can make you look bad. But we take risks and we try to make those decisions with the best information we have. And sometimes you strike out.
I totally get it, man. I co-founded and co-operate a startup, and it is by far the hardest thing I've ever done. And
Yep.
You feel the gamut of human emotions every single day. Just the other day, I thought if someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, "I'll take this off your hands," I would have said, "You can have it." And by the end of the day, someone had messaged me and said, that backpacking trip changed my life. And then I was like screaming at the top of my lungs in excitement and joy, like in my truck, just like hooping and hollering. And I thought, this morning, I would have sold this thing. I would have gave it away. And here we are, changing somebody's life in the same day. It's like its own, I don't even know what to compare it to. And it's like an adventure where you feel like crap at the beginning of the day. It's raining or it's cold or something, and you get to this epic viewpoint by that night, and you think, I can't stop doing this. This is the most important thing I've ever done with my life.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. You feel stupid for even questioning it at some points. And then you just feel stupid for continuing at some points.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that. 2 nights ago, I had one of those moments. I don't mind saying it. I don't mind saying it at all, because I think anybody that's been on this sort of journey, they'll get it.
Yeah.
But 2 nights ago, I was sitting on the couch talking to a friend, and I said, I'm cooked. I don't think I have anything left to give. And if I keep going down this path, this company is going to kill me. Like it was a rough day. It'd been a rough week, a lot of tough decisions, a lot of tough outcomes. And if somebody would have walked in the door and said, "I'll give you $1 to walk away," I would have said, "You can keep your $1 and take it."
Man.
And it's not, and I'm sure some people hear that and think, "Oh, well, he just doesn't have what it takes, or he's not motivated," or nobody works harder than me. Nobody works harder than me, and nobody cares more than me. But it's just that hard, and you're going to have those moments. And then, I wake up the next day and let's go. I wake up the next morning and I had just as much energy as I've ever had. We had a great day. We fixed a lot of the problems that we had the previous day, and 12 hours later, I'm as inspired as I've ever been. And that's just how it works.
By now, you certainly know who Bent Gate is. That's for a great reason. Bent Gate Mountaineering has been sponsoring the Adventure Sports Podcast almost from the beginning, and we really appreciate that. They've made it possible for all the great shows to continue coming your way. We want to say thanks by reminding you to go to them for your backcountry gear. If you live in Colorado, then just stop by their store in Golden. If not, go to bentgate.com. They have what you need, from the latest ultralight gear to the tried and true classics for climbing, hiking, and camping, like Arc'teryx, Hilleberg, Nemo, Western Mountaineering, and many more. Need advice? They have you covered there too. Their staff are passionate adventurers who can offer help from their own experiences. Bentgate also hosts lots of events and speakers. Check out their website to see the schedule and to see all of their products. Help take care of the Adventure Sports Podcast by getting your gear from Bentgate Mountaineering.
If you want to get into backpacking but you're not sure where to start, go check out campcrate.net. Campcrate can help you plan the backpacking trip of a lifetime and supply you with all the rental gear you need. Simply go online and choose your gear and your itinerary. Campcrate will then ship your gear anywhere in the U.S. When your trip is finished, use the pre-printed return label to ship the gear back. It's that easy. Campcrate. Rent, explore, return.
That's so relatable. And yeah, I think people would look at you and me too and just say, yeah, you guys don't have what it takes. And, you know, I'm probably on the verge of having what it takes. Like I definitely toe the line because naturally I just want to quit things that are hard. But I've usually surrounded myself with people that aren't like that.
Yeah.
But I think it's super common. I think it's incredibly common. This is not as the easiest type of business to build an outdoor store from scratch, really.
Yeah.
But getting back to that, do you coming from the Midwest, coming from maybe not being in this your entire life, like me, do you ever feel like an imposter? Like people look at you like you are a guru of this industry. You know everything, and you're like, I'm just selling you a tent. Like I don't know all this stuff about it. I'm just selling you stuff, and I know a lot, but by no means am I born and raised in this.
Absolutely. Yeah, but here's the catch. I mean, yeah, I feel like an imposter sometimes because I'm especially in Colorado, you kind of have to keep your head down sometimes, because anything you brag about, like you can go brag about your ultra run where you ran a sub 30, but as soon as you say that world-class ultra runner is your next door neighbor. But
right.
No, the imposter syndrome thing, I think is, it was something that, I've thought about, but also I feel very strongly that nobody has it figured out. Everybody has this sense that when they see successful businesses or whatever, that they look at these people and they say, oh, Johnny's he's clearly he's the guru. He's got it figured. I got news for you. Johnny doesn't know shit, and he is just as scared as anybody else. Nobody has it figured out. We're all just a kite dancing in a hurricane, man. We are just, it doesn't matter what business it is. It doesn't matter what experience somebody has. There's no playbook for any of this stuff. You can pick up the Business One, all the entrepreneur books. That's just one person's experience. And most of the time it means absolutely nothing when trying to apply it to whatever unique situation you're working on. So I have people ask, I've had people ask me that in the past and they've said like, different iterations of it. And I feel very strongly that everyone probably one of the most important things you can do to break through the startup barrier is just accept that nobody else has it figured out. And whatever you have is sufficient if you're just willing to work your ass off. It's kind of hard to accept that sometimes because everybody struggles with, confidence, and especially when things aren't going well. But yeah, I used to experience that kind of imposter syndrome stuff, but I'm over it. Like I'm completely over it. I look at it and say, yeah, sometimes I suck and I make dumb decisions, but I know everybody else does too. And I can't control that, but I'm gonna outwork everybody. I know that nobody can outwork me, and I've always put a premium on that anyway. So if I do dumb shit, so be it. We're gonna work our way through it.
I'm glad you said that, man, because this imposter syndrome thing has been kind of going around this year, and I kind of felt the same way. I didn't know that going into starting my own business, that I don't have to know everything up front, but slowly have learned it. And like you said, kind of think I'm over it too. in the sense of I'm very comfortable telling the people around me, you guys look like you've made it. You look like a huge success. And I'm like, I haven't taken a paycheck and I probably won't for a couple more years and I'm broke.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fun and this is exciting and I'm going to be proud of whether it succeeds or fails, but it's not glorious right now. And I don't know what I'm doing. And yeah, I don't really care, but the pressure's on every day. And at the very least, I wake up and feel like I have a purpose,
Right. Yeah. If somebody is starting a business in any industry and their measure of success is tethered to money, then they need to just abort the mission immediately because it's just not going to work that way. I didn't take a paycheck for the first quite literally 2.5 years Farrell was open. I actually just collected my first very, 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 very small paycheck just a couple weeks ago.
Congratulations,
and,
man.
It doesn't even pay my rent. I mean, it's nothing, but it was just almost symbolic more than anything. But if anybody thinks, that even the most successful businesses and organizations, you're not going to collect a paycheck for the first 2 years. And if you do, it's likely to the detriment of your company.
Yeah, that is tough, but that's the reality of it. And I know we have a lot of listeners that are interested in doing something like you've done, leaving a corporate job, or at least building a side hustle around something they're passionate about. And I get it. If you have a family, you've been in your career for a while, if you're going to devote 10, 20 hours a week at something, it's got to bring a little bit in. But if you're going to deep dive, totally change everything, you got to know what you're getting into. And it's good to hear from people like you who've done exactly that and know from experience it's going to take years. And I honestly think that you're ahead of the curve as well at 2.5 years to take a paycheck.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I think that's the challenge with, there's this, I think, over romanticization of, I don't know if that's a word, but of this like entrepreneur.
Sounds like a good word. Yeah.
Of the entrepreneur's journey in America. I have people all the time that, say, oh, I'm proud of you for following your dream and doing all these things. And it's just such a romantic thing in the United States. People just don't get it. They just don't understand what it really is. And I think most people, and also I think that's dangerous because I think it probably sends people down that path that shouldn't be going down that path. And especially with the money thing, it's dangerous because if you're not prepared emotionally to not take a paycheck for 2 or 3 years, emotionally and financially, then you shouldn't be doing it. I lived in my van for 7 months, and I think a lot of the people around me, because I'm a dirtbag and because I love being outside, and it seemed like a normal thing for me to do. And I think a lot of people around me thought, oh, he's living in his van because he's, he wants to adventure and be in the mountains. No, I was broke.
Yeah,
I was quite literally homeless for 7 months.
Oh yeah, man.
I was living in my van. And some of the shit I had to do just to scrape by, had nothing to do with the fact that, it was convenient that I'm a dirtbag and nobody thought twice about it. But it was literally, I had to live in my van for 7 months for my business to survive. I don't know very many.
So this is, sorry to interrupt, but this is when you had already started Farrell.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I didn't catch that. Dang.
I was living in my van until this past February.
That is awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And I know the people around me, thought, well, that's just Jimmy being Jimmy. No, that's right. Jimmy being broke and just trying to keep my business alive. And that's how important it was to me. I don't, there probably aren't a whole lot of people that are willing to be homeless before they're willing to give up their company,
Did that feel did you ever feel like, what am I doing laying in this van? Like, I got 9
Oh
brothers
yeah.
and sisters. What? Hey, your oldest brother is sleeping in his van.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, I not for those reasons. I mean, I really I don't care too much what other people think, but just personally, yeah. I mean, you always have doubt. You know, I left a comfortable job and could have done other things, and especially when it's December and it's 10 degrees outside and you've got the flu and you're in your van. Yeah, it's just, what am I doing? But I think that's just part of it. That's just part of the journey. And I actually, like, I look back on that and it reinforces how important this is to me.
Wow. So, so we've been talking a lot about the really, really hard stuff and the really negative stuff with starting a business. Not negative, but the challenging parts. What's surprisingly been something that's easily come for Farrell?
Oh man, you never want to admit to anything being easy.
Yeah, no, I get
It's
that.
bad. It's bad karma. No, I'll say I wouldn't say easy. I won't use the word easy, but I will say there's some things that exceeded my expectations, and one of those things, I guess they kind of go hand in hand, has been kind of the resonance that people have had with the brand, and it's been good and bad. We've had so many people have connected with the brand in a way almost independent of our actual shop. It's been odd. That's something that every company really tries to do, to build resonance with their message and their brand, and it's fleeting and it's difficult. And I've been really surprised at how much success we've had there, but it's also been a liability as well, because it's funny how many times I talk to people and they know Farrell, they've heard of Farrell, they follow Farrell, but they have no idea what we actually do. And it's funny because it almost becomes a challenge of making sure the business itself, the meat and potatoes of what we do, actually keeps up with the pace of the brand. I did not ever expect to have that sort of problem. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I didn't expect the branding side of things to take off the way it did.
If that's been a problem, why I've kind of stepped on your toes about telling people what Farrell is early on. Why don't you go ahead and explain to everybody,
Yeah.
A couple tens of thousands of people that'll listen to this next week, what is Farrell and what do you guys do?
Yeah, really, really simple. We're an outdoor gear shop based in Denver. We actually have a very small second location in Idaho Springs, Colorado, but we're just your basic local independent outdoor gear shop, hiking, camping, backpacking gear, and clothing. We do have a website, e-commerce site. Our e-commerce site's down right now while we move our Denver store to a bigger location, but we're just basically a local and independent outdoor gear shop out here in Colorado.
That's awesome, man. Now you guys offer a lot. You rent gear, which directly competes with us, but that's okay. There's plenty of fish in the sea. That's what I always say. My partner's always like, dude, we gotta crush them. Not really, but you know what I mean? You get competitive and it's natural and it's healthy. But I think, man, there's so many people that need gear. Like, it's going to be fine. All boats are going to rise with this tide. And, so yeah, outdoor gear shop. You do have a second location, but you're moving to a new location now. Yeah, why don't you tell us about that and kind of what the future is for Farrell?
Yeah. So we started, and this is another interesting perception thing that we've had to battle. So we started in a 700 square foot house, essentially a bungalow on Tennyson Street in Denver. and built the shop out in this house. And it isn't on like kind of a commercial district, but it's an old house. And it's funny because, it's another example of how kind of the brand took off before the business was actually there. We had people come in all the time that had followed us on Facebook or Instagram, and they walk in this tiny house and they're like, holy shit, this is you guys? This is what you guys are? And we're like, yeah, this is us. But we started in the house, and we're moving just down the street, just 4 blocks south. We'll still be on Tennyson Street, into an old theater. So we're going from about 700 square feet to about 4,700 square feet. In what used to be the old Alcott Theater on Tennyson Street. And so we're really excited about that. We started our build out this week. We hope to be done in time to open before Thanksgiving. But we're kind of in the thick of that build out right now.
And man, I appreciate you giving us some time. So you mentioned something. People would walk in and say, so this is what you do. Were they underwhelmed with the house?
Honestly, I think the reaction most people have when they walk in is that it's something they've never quite seen. And that's actually, I like that. I don't think, you never know what people are thinking and not saying. If you've been in business, that like most of the negative experiences just die a silent death, and you just never see those people again. So that's always scary. But most of the responses we've got have been, wow, this is pretty neat. This is unique. We like the way you guys are doing things. I think people like businesses that are scrappy and unique and, not like everything else they've seen. And I think that's, for people that have been in our store, probably one of the biggest reasons that people come back, is that it's just a little different.
Yeah, I would say that you have, or by luck or whatever, y'all have built a great brand in the sense of, I mean, you sell logo tees, but you're not an outdoor brand.
Yeah. I think it's fun. If I could just, kind of interject on the whole brand thing. It's funny that you say that, because I think every business can be a brand if you have something to say. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, and there's examples of it out there. There's weird Dollar Shave Club. They sell razors for almost nothing, but because of the fact that when they launched, they had something to say, they became a brand immediately.
Yeah.
And there's examples of that in every industry. And I think that on some level we've made no attempt really at being a brand, but when we realized, hey, independent of what we actually do on the day-to-day, we kind of feel like sometimes we have something to say. And I think if you take that approach, you can build a brand independent. It should not necessarily independent, but separate from what it is you actually do day to day. And that can become almost a vessel for what it is you're trying to accomplish. And we've tried to do that on some level over the last couple of years by being irreverent. And I'll drop an F-bomb in a blog on our website. I don't care.
I'll have to bleep a few words out, but
yeah. So it just, and I've taken some criticism for that, but I just don't care, because as a small business, we don't need everyone to like us. I don't even want everyone to like us, because if everyone likes us, that means we're probably full of I would much rather build a business on like 5% or 10% of people loving us than 90% of people liking us. And to do that, you have to be willing to step out a little bit and say some things that maybe don't jive with the majority, if it is truly authentic to you and how you feel and what you believe and what your business stands for. And I think that that's how you build kind of that branding side of things.
Yeah. That's funny you say that about Dollar Shave Club earlier. I remember seeing an ad for them when they first came out in a gym. I was in the bathroom and I saw this poster, and I could just tell through the poster, I'm like, dang, this company has some attitude. And I thought, if I ever shave, which I never do, haven't for 10 years, I'll go with Dollar Shave Club, but I don't shave, so I don't need their stuff. I think something you guys have done well, because when I first found out about Feral, I just sensed this presence you guys had online and a community, because the amount of people that seemed to be involved socially. And I come to find out later it was an outdoor gear store, and I went in your shop at the house, the bungalow, and I thought, yeah, this is cool. I mean, it's an outdoor shop, but there's something like people are really stoked about this. And something interesting I noticed, you guys involve people by making them ambassadors. Is that part of your strategy, just to make people feel a part of the brand and the community and help them get excited about getting out there and pushing Feral?
Sometimes I don't even know what our strategy is.
Yeah.
I think so. Our mission statement is create adventure. When it comes to our ambassador program or our broader strategy, when we make a decision to launch a new component of our business, we kind of just put it through that funnel. Does this help people create adventure in their life? Whether it's through inspiring them to do so or directly supporting them, or with the gear we decide to carry or the rental program or the used gear or whatever, we just kind of ask ourselves, does this in some way help people create adventure in their life? And, if it doesn't, then there has to be a very significant business case for making that decision. And in most cases, we just abandon it. So I think that's the biggest part of it. With our events, with our film nights, we're always looking for films that inspire people. And, we've all seen those films, right? You watch it and you're like, holy shit, I want to go climb Kilimanjaro right now, and it's just part of that, like, more holistic approach of like, how do we get people outside? Because ultimately that's really what I care about. I'm not inspired by selling graphic t-shirts. I just don't care. Sure, it's exciting for me to see our logo around town, but that is, kind of what helps us do the other things. At the end of the day, I just want to get people on a mountain.
So what's been one of the best experiences with Feral so far? Like maybe specific instances that you can remember?
Yeah. It's tough. It's every day is like a potpourri of devastation and inspiration. There's always these things that are pulling you back and forth. I think that one that kind of jumps out at me, and you may have had these experiences, because you guys are in the rental business. One thing that's unique about the rental business is that oftentimes people that are renting gear are people that, without the opportunity to rent gear, would not be able to experience the trip or the vacation or adventure that, they use that gear for. And I had one experience not too long ago where a pretty young couple came in and rented some gear. They'd never been to Colorado. They'd never been in the mountains. They'd never slept outside before, and they were putting together a trip actually in the Maroon Bells. So I had a lot of fun talking to them about it being like my first backpacking trip in Colorado. I spent all this time with them, kind of giving them some beta on, where would be some good places to camp and what to expect. And they came in pretty ill-equipped. Not just gear wise, but just planning wise and really understanding what they were likely getting themselves into. So I spent as much time as they would give me to kind of try to prepare them for that. And when they came back about 5 days later, they were so excited about the experience that they had over those few days, that you could just see in that moment, their lives were different from that point on. and it brought me back to the very same experience I had when, I did my first backpacking trip in Colorado. And they were just beaming. I mean, they were just glowing. And they actually, when they returned the gear, they showed up with a thank you card. And they wrote this really just amazing and thoughtful kind of narrative about their experience and how much like the help that I'd given them meant to them. And that's what it's all about. That's the stuff that, just makes it worth it, because that's what we're trying to do. Like, that's what we, as an outdoor gear shop, that's what we want to see. And that's one that comes to mind. But man, if you do this long enough, those experiences just keep cropping up.
Yeah. I really hold on to those when they happen.
Yeah.
Because it definitely confirms, like, this is why I left my last job. This is why I quit whatever it was, because nothing else I do in life causes people to so drastically change their life, or to hold on to an experience so tightly and so with such joy. And that's the cool thing about renting gear, especially in person. They have to come back at the end of their rental program, and they're either going to feel one or two ways: really excited about it, or maybe not so much. Maybe it was terrible. So that is kind of neat versus someone buying a jacket and you never see them again.
Right. And you're definitely going to have those people that they have bad experiences. I mean, hell, I have bad experiences. I mean, anybody that backpacks enough or climbs enough,
especially if they're new to it,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the risk, but we just have to do what we can to prepare people for type 2 fun.
Type 2 fun, man. That's what it's all about. We talk about that a lot on here, and it's the best kind of fun. So, you said you're moving to a new store. What's your ultimate goal with Feral, 10, 20, 30 years down the road?
Yeah, I said it earlier a little bit. My ultimate goal is just when I'm 70 or however long I have, is to just look back and be proud of how we did things. I don't have any financial goals. I don't really care too much about that stuff. I just want to be proud of how we did things, how we do things. And I want the people on our team to feel good about what we're doing. Every big decision we make, I make in collaboration with my team, because I don't want to, sometimes I'll write a blog piece that's maybe a little controversial and post it on Feral's page. And I always sit down with the team and say, hey, how do you guys feel about this? If we post this and you're out, to dinner with some friends tomorrow night and they ask you and challenge you on it, like, do you feel good about what we're saying and what we're doing? And that's what matters to me. I just want Feral to be something we're proud of and something our community is proud to be a part of. And I feel like if that happens, then everything else kind of just takes care of itself. So that's what we're trying to do.
Well, I think you're well on your way to achieving that goal. I wish Feral the best. We share the same geographical location, so I'll have to swing by and say hello sometime.
Yeah,
in your new place. Thanks for coming on here, man.
Of course. Yeah, always excited to share and honored to spend the time with you.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to let people know about Feral, where they can find out more about you, how they can follow you?
Sure. Yeah, you can find us on your preferred social media app of choice, at Feral Mountain Co. Feral, just like a feral child, Feral Mountain Co. spelled out, on Facebook or Instagram or wherever. And our website is feralmountainco.com. But you can just Google Feral Denver and you'll find us. But
you guys do ship nationwide, because we have listeners all over.
Yeah, we do. We do ship nationwide. Like I said, our e-commerce site is going to be down for the next 4 weeks while we're moving our Denver store. Our inventory is kind of tethered to that location, but we'll be back up and running there hopefully before Thanksgiving. And we ship all over the place. So come check us out.
Awesome. Thank you, Jimmy.
Of course. Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Building. Just holler at me.
Cool. Yeah, we'll do, man. I appreciate that. And good luck with everything you got going on over at Camp Crate and with the podcast.
Thanks, man. Yeah, we had a great summer. It was our first real year, and it by far exceeded our expectations. And,
awesome.
We're gonna keep fighting the good fight.
Yeah. No. Good luck, man. It's worth it. I hope everything goes well.
You too, man. All right, we'll talk soon.
All right. Cheers, Mason.
All right, thanks. Have a good one.
Yeah. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank y'all so much for listening. I hope you have a great weekend and get out there, do something exciting, go start a business, go do something crazy, and then give us a call at 812-MAILPOD. That is 812-MAILPOD, and tell us all about what you did.